So in this segment, we're going to be talking about the government admitting it is not keeping track of the Dover lorry delays, and the reasoning behind that they've given us is absolutely comical. So the government has admitted it's not keeping track of how long lorry drivers are having to sit in queues at Dover thanks to new Brexit bureaucracy. Hauliers going to the continent have been intimately stuck in rolling tailbacks since the UK left the EU, with new paperwork and red tape causing major disruption to trade. Let's not forget, this is something we chose to do, essentially. It's not on anyone else, it's on us. Ministers say they have not been monitoring the length of the delays and that data collected by the port authorities cannot be shared with them for, quote, security reasons, which is probably the biggest joke I've ever heard. Why wouldn't the government have access to the delays at the ports? It doesn't make sense. Honestly, it doesn't. The reason why they don't want to tell us this is because they don't want to talk about the disaster it's having. The Lib Dems have called for the introduction of a new waiting time standard that no lorry driver is left waiting more than 20 minutes at the border, which is a good idea. However, how do you even enforce that? What's the penalty for failure? How do you get the staff needed to even carry out something like this when some of these lorry drivers have been waiting for hours upon end? So a good idea from the Lib Dems, but something that's going to be hard to implement. Reports emerged this week that aid for Ukraine, including ambulances getting stuck at the border because of new Brexit export rules. What I would say is please just donate to them directly rather than trying to send goods from the UK. It's just not going to work because of all the paperwork. They've made it easier, but it's still problematic. In January, the ending of a customs declaration grace period resulted in a 6-mile lorry tailback on roads. So this led to a 6-mile long lorry tailback on roads leading to the port. Asked for data on the delays at Dover, which processes 75% of all roll-off freight arriving by ferry from Europe. Parliamentary Undersecretary for Transport Robert Court said the department does not hold data on the length of time spent by hauliers waiting to board a ferry at Dover, which I think the government don't want to ask for this data, because if they do, they can get hit with the Freedom of Information Act. That's why they haven't asked for this information. The Port of Dover operates a turn-up-and-go service, meaning HGV drivers will be placed on the first available ferry when they arrive at the port. There may be an occasion when hauliers have to wait, which may be due to peak periods of traffic at the port. It looks like the government are once again blaming the ferries thing, which we know is not true. This idea that there's just massive delays because of a ferry refit, I don't know how much longer they can keep arguing that, to be honest. A spokesperson for the Department of Transport added that for security purposes, all data on waiting times is held centrally by the ports and is at their discretion to publish this information. Now, I don't know what kind of security purposes they're talking about, because it doesn't make sense. We're just talking about delays at ports. We're not asking for, what does the government know about aliens and stuff like that. It doesn't make sense. It's for security reasons. I think the government doesn't want to ask for the numbers. It's just pure nonsense. Honestly, it's pure nonsense that it's for security reasons. They're saying we work closely with the Kent Reliance Forum on its traffic management plans to ensure waiting times are kept to a minimum and that any delays are communicated to hauliers via the appropriate channels, but you won't tell us about how long it's taking, etc., because security reasons. Okay then. Liberal Democrat spokesperson for Europe, Layla Moran, said the situation was absurd and called for ministers to get a grip on the situation with new targets. And again, okay, fine, good idea, have new targets, but again, how are you going to implement these things? Like, I find it very frustrating when you get opposition members just saying, get a grip on the situation, just work harder, get a grip. What do you want them to do here? Like, honestly, do you want them to hire more staff? Because that's a good idea. Do you want them to increase the facilities at Dover? Because that's a good idea. Why don't you call for these things instead of just saying, why don't you just get a grip? Honestly, some of the mentality of some people is just ridiculous. Get a grip. Yeah, it's very helpful, Layla. Very, very helpful. At a time when people up and down the country are caught in a cost of living crisis, the Tories should be looking at making trade easier, which is true. Instead, businesses are tangled up in red tape and lorries are stuck in tailbacks, including those carrying vital aid to Ukraine, she said. Which is also true, but the only way you're going to get an easier trading situation is if you rejoin the single market, which the Lib Dems have spoken about. and the customs union, or you get alignment deals with the EU. That's the only way you're going to make things easier, because equivalency deals are off the table for now. So, she doesn't mention a specific plans here, but I'll give her a pass because they are talking about it more broadly. So they get a pass on this one. She says, we're in the absurd situation where astronauts in outer space appear to know more about the length of Dover tailbacks than our own government does, which is funny. She's got jokes. Because the government don't want to know. That's why they're not going to ask. It's not for security reasons. I suppose if the government being laughed at and being mocked ruthlessly is a security concern, then fair enough, but I don't think it is. She says it's about time ministers got a handle on the length of the lorry queues in Dover. The Conservatives must bring forward waiting time standards and publish regular figures so we can hold them to account. If the government has nothing to hide, they have nothing to fear, which is a great statement, but let's not forget, there are, waiting time targets for A&E in the UK. I think it's 4 hours that no one should wait longer for. That's the target. And yet the government consistently fails to meet those targets and nothing gets done. What are you going to say? Oh yeah, you didn't see all these lorry drivers in 20 minutes. It's a failure. And the government's like, oh, it's just teething problems, bro. They're going to get sorted soon. And then you're going to be like, oh yeah, cool, sweet. Like, what? Honestly, unless you offer tangible plans, which, fair enough, in this article they didn't mention, which it could be, it could have been that the Lib Dems weren't open about this one. But given that this article was written 3 days ago at time of recording, and this subsequent article was written 3 days of recording, maybe it's just the writer of this piece being slightly lazier. But it's the same writer, so it doesn't even make sense. I do wonder how that's going to play out electorally speaking, because you've got Labour not doing too great compared to the Tories. This one's in Kent, so this one is in Dover. Sorry, this is Natalie, who said that this is Brussels red tape, not Brexit red tape. And then she also said, oh, it's great because now there's more infrastructure spending and staff in Dover now. So she doesn't make sense in herself. I do wonder how close they can run her, though, because if you look, Labour had a disastrous 2019, but, the people of Dover, would they really want all these, things like lorry parks and all of this new infrastructure when it wasn't needed? I do wonder how close they can kind of run Natalie, whatever her surname is, in the next election, considering that Labour probably did badly because of our former leader Jeremy Corbyn. So hopefully Charlotte Cornell or whoever runs next time can run the Tory MP a lot closer, or potentially win the seat. I know it looks like a big problem considering there's more than a 20-point gap, but I don't think Natalie, surname something, will do so well in the next election. But that's just a hunch. Anyways, I'm going to leave it there. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Support the channel on Patreon if you can. Hopefully I'll see you in the next one.